I call the meeting of the Zoning Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Could you please call the roll?
Dr. Seaman?
Here.
Mr. Peugeot?
Here.
Mr. Delahunt?
Here.
Mr. Matthews?
Here.
Mr. Fike?
I assume everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes from the May 18th meeting. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. Can we, I will just do a voice call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Do I have the little splurb that we need to swear everybody in?
I don't have a blurb, but
Typically, if it's a public hearing, if anyone that's speaking tonight has to give an oath.
he's saying, what does he say?
So anybody who would like to speak at this public adjudication hearing, please raise your right hand and say, I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
I do.
Thank you.
That works.
Okay. Our first item on the agenda this evening is a hearing to consider a variance at 623 Bennett Ave. Let me get to that. To expand the existing front porch an additional 3 feet into the required front yard setback. May we hear from staff concerning that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property first on the agenda tonight is zoned R140 single-family residential, and it's surrounded in all directions by R140 single-family residential. The existing use is residential, and all the surrounding uses are residential. The proposed use is still residential. As you'd mentioned, this project is to expand the existing front porch an additional 3 feet into the front setback. I will touch on the specifics here in a second. Currently, the front yard setback of the house is a legal conforming setback, a legal non-conforming setback. The zoning code requires a minimum of 25 feet from the front house, the front facade to the front property line. The house at 622 Bennett is approximately 18 feet, so it's grandfathered into our current zoning code. The existing front porch is set back approximately 13 feet. The front porch can project in any residential zone such as this one 8 feet into the required front yard, so allowing a 17-foot front yard setback from the porch as proposed. Now, the applicant, based on the setback, since it's not 25 feet, it is the 18 feet. There's additional rules because of that. So the applicant tonight is seeking a 7-foot relief or a 7-foot variance to the minimum setback requirement. Staff has reviewed this proposal quite extensively. The house is the southernmost parcel of the Bennett Ave on the west side of the block. So staff noticed that it won't interfere with sight lines from the street or from pedestrians or from cars driving down the street. And the porch, as proposed, will still be 20 feet from the edge of the street. That's including the public right-of-way, if we were to include the 10 feet of the right-of-way into that measurement. So based on those considerations, staff supports this fully as requested at 623 Bennett Avenue with the following conditions, and that's that all necessary permits are obtained through the building, engineering, and planning departments prior to any construction.
Thank you. Does anybody here have anything to say for this request?
That would be me.
Could you step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the
My
record?
name is Kippy Laughlin. My address is 623 Bennett Avenue.
Thank you.
I'm actually only extending out about 2.5 feet from this porch. The porch is 5 feet, 5.5 feet, and we're going out to 8 feet. Right now, it has no railings on it or anything. It's just a 2.5-foot stoop. So we're going to put railing. We want to put railings on it and make it safe. I was also awarded a beautification grant to build this porch through the city, so they're going to pay for half of it, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I'm only coming out about 2.5 feet. I'm way away from the road. And I also think, maybe even the parcel map's a little crazy because there's about 7 feet of my property in my neighbor's backyard. And it's hard to determine exactly where it is, but either way, it will extend my current porch 2.5 feet. But even if I was to add railings, which is the necessity, I'd still have to add a foot regardless.
Does anybody have any further questions?
Are you ripping the concrete out and starting over or just adding to it?
No, we're just going to build right over it. That's the easiest way. It'd be a pain in the butt to break it up and try to, and plus it'll give more support.
Is there going to be any roof area over that porch?
A little overhang, because right now there's none, so when my packages are delivered, they get soaked, in the rain. So there'll be a small one. It won't be, 8 by 16. It'll probably just be a few feet. And it might be 10, or I might make it match the shingles that we currently have. It'll look nice regardless.
I just want to make sure that this won't become an enclosed porch.
No. But speaking of that, my neighbor did build an enclosed porch out on hers. I think there was a disability issue, and she was approved that variance to do so. Mine will not have an enclosure. There'll be steps, there'll be railing, and a small overhang.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Laughlin? Does anybody in the audience wish to speak against this variance? Any questions from the board?
No, not here.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the variance and according to staff, that he gets the permits and everything necessary to complete his job.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Can we call the roll?
Dr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot?
Yes.
Mr. Delahunt?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews?
Yes.
That variance is approved, and you'll need to get your proper building permits. Our second item on this evening's agenda is for a variance to allow 1.7 feet of encroachment into the minimum combined side yard setback of a parcel at 1817 Hancock Street.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Staff comments?
Yes, so this this parcel does not have an address. So for the record, we're pertaining to parcel number 57-05212. It's currently zoned R2F, two-family residential. To the north, east, south, and west is also two-family residential. The existing use of this lot is vacant / part of the applicant's current backyard. The surrounding uses are all residential. The proposed use is residential. The parcel is located on Hancock Street, but like I had mentioned, there's no mailing address. The applicant is wishing to build a 31-foot house. The current width of the parcel is approximately 39.3 feet. The code states that there should be a minimum 10-foot combined set yard setbacks in the zoning for the side yards. The applicant needs a relief of 1.7 feet, which equates to 1 foot 8.4 inches to meet the criteria of the zoning code. The current parcel is fairly large at 194 feet by 39.3 feet, totaling approximately 7,624 square feet of parcel area, which meets the minimum parcel size for this zoning. And then the applicant does own the house to the north of this parcel. So the parcel does also meet the minimum width requirements. Depending on how it's proposed, a single-family house would need 33 feet, and a single-family would need 40, if two-family would need 33 feet. So the width does meet both of those. So historic development in Sandusky, especially as you get closer to downtown, is a lot more dense, less side yard setbacks. Based on that, based on the proposal, staff does not see an issue with the the foot and 1.8 foot 3-inch relief for this proposal. As many functioning houses in the city have a lot less setbacks than this and are still functioning properly and have not had any issues. So there still is 8 foot and 3.5 inches of usable side yard setback. So how it's proposed, I mean, obviously the minimum's 3 feet, so you'd have to at least have 4+ feet on the other side. So since there is a 3-foot minimum, both sides would meet at least the minimum, and staff sees that as not a high impact for the surrounding properties, and also not a negative piece for the proposal. Staff does support new development in the city, so this is another single-family home being built, an infill development at that. So based on all these findings, staff does support the requested variance with the following conditions, and that's that all permits are obtained through the building, engineering, and planning departments.
Thank you. Board have any questions for the staff?
I know Chairman Fike wrote a letter to the staff. Is it appropriate to have that put on the record?
No, so in order to contribute to discussion, a board member has to actually be present either virtually or in person.
Is the alley that we see on the zoning map, which is adjacent to that property, immediately south of the property, is that currently in use?
So it's a public right-of-way. Technically, it's not an alley per se, so there's not an access point that cars have historically used it. My assumption is that it was put there for utility lines of some sort. Maybe it's been adjusted, or possibly way back in the day when cars were a lot narrower, maybe this was an alley, but it is not functioning as that currently. And the applicant would be able to apply for a vacation if, in the future, if that is something he wishes to do.
Well, I was just wondering if that's something that could happen. If that was vacated, then we probably wouldn't be in need of this variance if that could be added to his lot width.
That's correct. It is a fairly lengthy process. We currently, as a staff, have one vacation application that we've been ongoing since February, with not a final endpoint yet. So from a time standpoint, from a cost standpoint, the applicant wanted to go this route. Given that nature, staff does feel that this is a pretty minimal variance request, all things considered.
Thank you. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak for this, in favor of this variance?
I'm here, but there's nothing I really need to say.
Microphone.
Could you just state your name and address for us?
Did you swear him in? Did he raise his hand?
Yeah, he raised his hand. I believe you raised your hand during the swearing in. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Piaget Hunter, address 1817 Hancock Street. There's nothing I really need to say about it. It's a very minimal variance. Like you said, the city supports more houses being built in the city of Sandusky, and it's something I'm financing myself. If we went the route of the vacation, it would be more costly and a lot more time consuming to go that route. But it's not actually an alley. There's trees growing in the middle of it and things like that, and I maintain it, so.
It's not navigable there.
Right.
Is it already a separate lot, and did you buy that after you bought the?
No, I bought it all together, so it's already a separate lot.
It already was separate.
Yeah.
And the reason why, I know we're not bringing it in the record, but one of the things brought up apparently was the fact that, is there a reason why you had to go past for the 1.5 feet or the foot and 8 inches as far as
Because the width of the house, the prints that I have, that's the scale already
Okay.
exceeds.
So it's kind of a package that you bought on the prints and everything?
Yeah.
And you don't have a business, anything going on there? I saw, is there just, you have a lot of vehicles or something right around in there?
It's just my personal stuff.
Oh, there, okay, I thought I saw some other stuff.
Is it gonna be rental or who's gonna live in it once you build it?
Undetermined.
Undetermined. Could go either way.
Could go either way.
Okay.
But it is a single family, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anybody here who would like to speak against this variance? Seeing none, does the board have any questions for staff? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I motion that all necessary permits are obtained through the building, engineering, and planning department prior to construction.
In approving, right?
And
Approve the
Yeah,
variance.
I'll second that.
Please call the roll.
Dr. Siemens,
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot,
Yes.
Mr. Delahunt,
Yes.
Mr. Matthews.
Yes.
That variance is approved, and you'll need to get the proper permit. Our third item on the agenda is for a variance at, let me get to the proper page here, 3712 Venice Road. And this is for a variance to allow dwelling units smaller than the minimum dwelling area requirements. We'd entertain staff's report on this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The parcel for conversation is zoned general manufacturing. To the north is local manufacturing, to the east and south is general manufacturing, and to the west is also general manufacturing. Surrounding uses, as of right now, to the north is Toft's area, so light commercial, and then to the east, south, and west is all a form of residential. The existing use of this site was a hotel, so high-density residential. The proposed use is also a high-density residential, but a more restrictive version of a high-density residential use. The applicant would like to turn the old Bayview Motel into apartments. The motel rooms do not meet the minimum dwelling size of a residential multifamily district. The applicant is seeking a variance for the minimum dwelling size allowed in the least restrictive contiguous district of the zoning code, which does equal residential multifamily, which I can run you through on this map. So how it works is with the general manufacturing being the least restrictive, it's a ladder step approach. So you're looking for the next least restrictive. So in this case, it would be the local manufacturing. So if you follow the arrows, then the next contiguous zoning to local manufacturing in this whole region is general business. And then do it one more time, one more step further, the next least restrictive touching a general business parcel here is residential multifamily. So that's how we've gotten the zoning requirements, and the minimum dwelling size of this zoning is 400 square feet. Now, the applicant's proposed 5 one-bedroom apartments ranging in size from 390 to 403 square feet. So the 403 square feet units do not require a variance. It would be the 390 to 399 or 400, square foot units that would require the variance. The applicant's also proposing 2 studio apartment efficiency units at 198 square feet. So they would need a 202 square foot relief variance for these units to meet our zoning code. Excuse me one second. The building department, staff did speak with the building department. There aren't any issues with state or federal building standards for dwelling sizes. This would still exceed both of those by quite some, a large amount actually. I believe the federal minimum is 70 square feet, which is pretty absurd, but I was surprised to hear that as well. But yeah, that is the federal, and state was similar to that as well. So there will be additional process that's needed for this through Planning Commission. They have to approve what would be called a substitute of use for a non-conforming use. So since the old use, the hotel, has been vacant for more than a year, that non-conforming use is not eligible. So a substitution of use is the next step of this process, which the applicant, if all goes well tonight, will apply for, and hopefully keep going in the process. So that would allow a more restrictive use to be here if the substitution were to be approved. So in this case, month-by-month rental of apartments, it would be a more restrictive use than a hotel, transient, people coming and going as much. So the site will have less traffic, both physically and also cars coming in and out of the site. This site has had a notorious reputation for drugs and also, other crimes. So the applicant has mentioned that part of his plan here is to relieve that and have a stable residential use on the site. So all that being considered, and also the permits, he's well aware, so permits will be a part of this process. Now, all that being considered, staff is supportive of this variance as long as those permits through the building engineering and planning departments are achieved.
What about you said the planning committee, what do they have to do?
So it wouldn't be a conditional use permit. The code specifically says planning commission has to review a substitution of use. So what that means is they will, similar to other processes, whether it be site plan, whether it be conditional use, they have to hear the proposal and decide if the substitution of use is in fact the least restrictive use and also meets the other criteria to allow this non-conforming use technically to be allowed on the site. Does that make sense?
You don't think that should be done first before we do anything here?
The applicant actually applied for that first, and the commission at the time pushed him to get this process first. So without we could play back and forth for years, is what it sounded like, but this logically, from a staff perspective, is the best route to start with anyways. So that's why the applicant's here tonight.
I know this isn't part of our deal, but what about fire? Do they have to do things, since it's kind of a whole new bag here, double drywall or fire alarms or everything? I mean, those are pretty small units on top, people on top of each other there. Is there anything that has to change with that?
Sure, that's probably a question more directed towards our building department. I do know that there is an extensive process of building code procedures they will have to follow. Now, to what extent, staff is unaware, but that is part of a continuing process in this chain of events.
I might be able to help a little bit with that. So not only would they have to get all of their construction building permit plans approved, there's also a requirement before any rental actually takes place. They have to, there's a rental inspection process for all rentals in the city.
Right.
And they'd have to pass both of those. So the building, any construction and plans would have to pass the building codes inspection. And then the code department would also have to approve them as they'd have to register as a rental because it's more than 30 days, a long-term rental. And if it was less than 30 days, it'd be a transient rental application. So there's two additional steps after the zoning and the variance are handled.
Yeah.
Does the board have any further questions for staff? Is there anybody here who would like to speak in favor of this variance?
How are you today?
Great.
How are you?
Good. Sean Sprouse. I'm with the Views on Venice, owner of the property. And we do this in a lot of communities, actually. This isn't our first time.
Just for the
Yep.
record, can you just state your address?
My personal address or business address or
Either one. whatever.
6691 Highland Lakes Place, Westerville, Ohio.
Got it. Thanks.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So we do this in a number of communities and have done this before, and the answer is yes to your prior questions. It has to be fire safe and there has to be fire ratings, and I believe we have to update the smoke detectors to be hardwired and that kind of thing. There is a need for this, not just in Sandusky, but everywhere. Not everybody lives the same, and affordable housing is a major need everywhere. We own 10 other apartments here in town, and I can't list one for a day without getting 20 applicants. And so there is a definite need here in Sandusky, and this is one way that we're able to help provide affordable housing. With inflation and things going on, every cost is of a concern to people now, and this would be a way for us to help them manage their housing cost. This is an existing structure. What we're proposing is not moving any walls. So that's the other reason here we're asking for this relief on the existing sizes. This was originally built as a multifamily structure, has always been used as a multifamily structure. And so, again, to Alec's point, it does exceed the state and federal requirements.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
I noticed, I drove by and I could tell work was going on there. What sort of work's going on there right now?
Cosmetic, what we had to do when we took it over was get rid of the bugs and the 3 layers of subfloor and the, layers on layers of carpet and linoleum and furniture and everything. So we've taken all that out. We took the toilets out and the sinks and those. And when I spoke with the building department, they said as long as you're not redoing anything and you're, cosmetically updating a new toilet, that's okay. So they're in there painting and drywalling and that kind of thing.
Is this the same number of units currently as you will have going forward? Is that
Correct.
So nothing, I think you said no walls or.
No walls are being changed.
And that area in the middle, is that just kind of an open area?
It is actually a utility area. There will be 2 washers and 2 dryers in there for
So
them.
you're going to be able to afford that for the
Yep.
people and
Yep.
get those things in there.
So am I correct that at the end of the day, this is turning the same number of motel rooms into the equal number of apartments?
Correct. And I have spoke with the neighbors, again, all residential neighbors. They're delighted that it's moving to a more restrictive use or being proposed to move towards a more restrictive use.
Had you put any consideration towards combining those 2 smaller ones to have a larger apartment?
We have, but there's a couple things. I don't know if you've been to Menards recently or not, but not everything's on the shelf, and what is on the shelf is 50% more expensive. So if we can keep the existing infrastructure in place, it helps us financially to get this to market sooner. And I'll be honest with you, we've struggled finding some help here in Sandusky. So moving walls, doing those things in a timely manner can also be a challenge. And again, the folks who are on the need of affordable housing, it helps us bring the rent down, at least on 2 units, to help those folks.
Is there maximum occupancy because of the size of these units?
There is one. I mean, I think you get 2 heartbeats is the way I think it reads.
So 2 people, yeah. Well, I know the city seems to be going transient housing throughout the entire city, and it is tough for affordable housing for individuals, and, obviously, this is very small and a big ask, but I would make a motion that we approve.
Can I just make sure nobody wanted to speak against?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Against
Yes,
this.
yes, yes.
Didn't think there was, but I just wanted to make sure we crossed our Ts.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Dillahunt.
So I will make a motion that the permits are gotten and you do all of the things that the city asks and that we approve this motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion and a second. Can we please call the roll?
Dr. Siemens,
Yes.
Mr. Peugeot,
Yes.
Mr. Delahunt,
Yes.
Mr. Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's passed. Then just get
Thank
your.
the staff. They've been helpful, very helpful. So.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Be in touch.
Absolutely.
Keep it nice.
Is there any further business to come before us?
That is it. And
Yeah.
touch on next
We
month's
don't know
meeting. We do
anybody.
not have an application
Yeah.
as of
You
yet,
never know.
so possibly canceled meeting.
Possibly a July vacation?
Possibly a July vacation day, yeah.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.